question for you, Caitlin. Are you a gamer?
Well, I don't shy away from video games, but you're unlikely to find me marooned in my bedroom on a racing chair hooked to a caffeine drip, if that's what you mean.
Well, this is a surprise. Gaming is huge. Did you know that people now spend over 1 trillion hours gaming each year? That's more time than Netflix, YouTube, TikTok combined in some key markets like the US and South Korea. Interestingly, we had the CEO of Asahi come out this week and say that it's not Gen Z, it's gaming that's changing drinking habits.
Right? Okay, so forget wellness trends. It's actually that people would rather hang out on Twitch or stream on Discord than hit the bars or party with friends.
I mean, what did you just say?
Clearly not a gamer. So Twitch is like live TV for gaming, and honestly, everything else now. Discord is more like WhatsApp meets Reddit, but it's for hanging out while gaming or just hanging out full stop.
Right. Are you sure you're not a gamer, Caitlin?
Well, these platforms are so widely used now, you don't need to be plugged in to be in the know. What Asahi is really saying is gaming and digital entertainment are stealing alcohol's share of time. And that's a wake-up call, and not just for the beer industry. So let's face it, if you're deep into League of Legends or Fortnite, the last thing you want is something that dulls your reflexes. Alcohol's not built for winning battles. Well, not these kinds, at least. And that's why beverage giants like Heineken are diversifying. They're buying into brands that can play in the hydration, focus, and energy spaces.
Yeah. And I guess if we think back to our last episode on product experience, we can absolutely see why better product experiences in the form of almost consumer packaged entertainment, I think, are increasingly necessary
Sure.
for manufacturers to compete. Yeah.
Experience design has to do more to earn a place in people's lives. Because you're not just selling a drink anymore, you're trying to convince someone to pause their game and pick up your product.
And that's why we make this podcast. And we will keep tracking how brands are rethinking P for product in the marketing mix to win the battle for people's time and money.
And we'll be returning to the wonderful world of adult beverages in an episode coming soon. But right here, right now, we're taking you straight into the energy boom.
Energy is such a fascinating topic, but as listeners may remember from our health episode, people's need for energy seems to have ebbed a little since the tail end of the pandemic.
Could energy be less of a priority for people because it's being adequately serviced by a range of food and beverages? Either way, one forecast suggests that the global energy drinks market will see a 7.9% compound annual growth rate all the way to 2030. One standout performer is Monster Energy, whose international sales have surged by nearly 12%.
I mean, that brand is on fire, right? I think here in the UK, it's grown even faster than the market leader as a result of prolific flavor innovations. Some of its latest titles include Bad Apple, Mango Loco, Pacific Punch.
The interesting thing is that the sector is becoming less dependent upon caffeine. We're starting to see ingredients such as guava, ginseng, and green tea extract take center stage.
But despite all the talk about natural energy, only one brand that explicitly sells as natural here in the UK makes the top 10, and that's Purdey's. And this is in spite of recent category polls conducted by the Grocer magazine here that found that over half of category users believe that energy drinks are bad for them, would you believe?
Yes, there's that say-do gap again. But as the title of this episode suggests, the energy drink sector is booming. In the US last year, sales hit $22 billion, rising 11%. And I think that the velocity was more like 15% in the UK.
Yeah.
Now, there are plenty of clues to what's underpinning this momentum. Put simply, modern lifestyles are increasingly demanding, and that means consumers are increasingly seeking out convenient energy solutions. Recent research shows that most adults frequently hit energy walls each week, suffering from fatigue, lack of motivation, and difficulty concentrating. Here in the US, a recent study by Second Nature Snacks found that 74% of Americans experience an afternoon energy slump at least once a week, and that's typically around 3 p.m.
Yeah, I think if we're honest with ourselves, us humans are mostly wired for sugar when it comes to finding energy.
Well, I guess cavemen weren't the most well-versed in electrolytes, but with hydration brands such as Liquid IV coming on stream, people are maybe thinking, I don't need energy, I need hydration.
Which begs the question then, is the energy drink sector, despite massive recent gains, slowly moving out of sync with where perhaps wellness culture is heading?
Perhaps, or maybe guiding more peripheral growth for categories like enhanced hydration alongside this increasing energy boom. But today we've got Megan alongside us, who is our resident semiotics expert with brand strategist Huxley. So, what's your take, Megan? Do you think the energy drink sector has a problem? We know it reaches about a third of the population, and yet three-quarters are hitting that wall.
Well, we can definitely see that the energy drink sector is having to adapt. They're updating the way that they speak to consumers and design their packaging, which suggests that consumer expectations are really shifting. Consumers are being given more credit for their savviness in seeking or avoiding certain ingredients or benefits, so closer to the way that they might approach skincare or supplements. This assumes a wider awareness of you are what you eat and drink, and therefore considering the longer term impacts beyond the immediate functional need. The energy brand C4 is well established in the US by now, but their current product range really reflects this cultural shift. Their smart energy drink says a lot through the product name alone. It's saying, work smarter, not harder. The drink is doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you to boost your metabolism and aid weight loss. So it's less about relying on your own grit and willpower and hitting the gym. It's making smart choices.
And what about the concept of hydration that Caitlin was alluding to then? I mean, it feels like the attention is moving its way, yeah?
Yes, you're right, it is. The culturally dominant narrative of energy is still in the binary of hydration and replenishment. So it's either giving you that immediate energy boost that you need pre exercise, or it's helping you to return to that baseline after exercise. So, if anything, hydration is actually becoming more and more popular, particularly where it's bundled with other stuff such as metabolism, focus, digestion, to deliver a steady uplift across the day to avoid peaks and troughs.
It's really fascinating stuff. And I've noticed that there are more energy brands that seem to be targeting women as well. Have you seen that too?
Yes, I have. Energy drinks are actively widening access to include women, but perhaps in a way that caricatures women in the way that men conventionally have. So you have this traditional image in your mind, perhaps, of energy drinks being for a man guzzling sugar and caffeine to optimize his performance for an intense burst of power at the gym. But it's now moving to also include women who are using energy to look like her best self. The energy brand Bloom borrows a lot of cues from the women's health space, so it instantly communicates that it's designed specifically for women. It does this through slightly saturated pastel colors, cute icons, and of course the feminine floral connotations of the brand name Bloom. The stance that they convey on energy feels like a play on photosynthesis through the brand name and logo, which conveys the idea of deriving energy in the most natural, direct, and efficient way possible. It's conveyed as energy for life, as well as exercise, alongside other benefits like digestion, bloating, hair, skin, and nails. So there's still an emphasis on the aesthetic benefits of a body that metabolizes food and energy well, so that you can blossom like a flower and boast a flat stomach.
There's some really big shifts in what the category is trying to do there, Megan. And I know that if listeners go to our LinkedIn page, I think they can find those products Bloom on the shelves. What would you say are the key things that brands need to do to basically stay relevant with mainstream audiences?
I think brands need to keep in mind that they have to be willing to break the rules because that is what the rest of the energy drinks category is doing. They're doing it to evolve alongside consumers. For example, Clean Energy is repositioning coffee as a nootropic. So, caffeine as the active ingredient is said to come from green coffee beans, precisely balanced with other nootropics like mushrooms. The brand Elani Nu has flavors based on vibes rather than literal ingredients, so similar to the Monster Energy flavors that we described before. It uses a Malibu Barbie World meets aerobics aesthetic to appeal to women. You'll see flavors such as Cosmic Dust and Pink Slush, which challenge the functional norm of the category by creating an emotional connection with consumers.
What else is coming over the horizon? Where do you see the category going?
It's a great question. I think energy drinks are implying to consumers that they're taking them to new heights beyond completing their next gym session or meeting their fitness goals. So the brand Numa, which stands for No More Artificials, reflects today's obsession with longevity. It implicitly communicates the idea of hacking your body and the system to live forever, which we see in the infinity sign and the logo for the two O's. They recommend their product range as a replacement for traditional soft drinks and energy drinks. So the message here is don't waste your time drinking stuff that has no functional benefits or drinks that promise no compromise. Not only are you going to live longer, but you'll be performing at your peak day after day.
If you want to hang out with Megan, go to huxleyglobal.com and click the talk to us button.
Yes, please do that.
Cool. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
So we couldn't do an episode about the boom in energy products without shining a light on the world of protein. Latest health research by MMR has confirmed the pull of protein for modern consumers. Right now, we're going to track the impact of protein in the everyday meal planning arena. And to do that much more brilliantly than I can, I'm thrilled to welcome back Millie Diamond, top strategist with consumer forecasting agency WGSN. Hello, Millie. You've got a new report out, I hear.
Hey Andy, yeah, that's right. At WGSM, we've just released our plant-based protein forecast for 2027, which is part of an alternative protein series, actually. So the next two will focus on fermented proteins and then cultivated proteins. But here we've really looked into further areas of opportunity in the plant-based protein market, which is really having to evolve and shift now after its first wave.
And is it fair to say that protein has really broken out now from its Jim Bunny origins? Modern consumers seem to be turning to plant based proteins, in my view, as they seek to move away from sugar and refined carbs, for example. Is that fair?
Yeah, so we forecast protein a long while back with reports like Portable Protein back in 2018 and New Plant Proteins in 2020 and highlighting emerging plant-based solutions and ingredients. And of course, much of it started with the sports nutrition sector. And then as consumers are increasingly focusing on their health, like you say, and wellness, it's become a much wider trend with protein. And it's widely now perceived as a key component of a healthy diet. And also, of course, something that aids weight loss and muscle growth. So now beyond this, it's being driven even further by the GLP-1 agonists like the Ozempics, and the need for a protein-rich diet is crucial alongside these medications. So, it really promotes satiety, and even with older generations, protein is vital for muscle mass, bone health, which, as we're all living longer and looking to live those later years of life in good health, it really does mean that protein has such a broad appeal. I think with consumers looking to fuel themselves with more protein, they're also increasingly environmentally conscious or maybe just trying to cut back on how much animal products they're consuming. So there's a real opportunity here for brands to provide new fuel sources, if you like, that really maximize the protein element, but using those plants.
Yeah, and one of the other dynamics in play, of course, at the moment is the pivot away from ultra processed foods, even plant based ones. Do you find brands looking to satisfy increased demand for this simplicity in their diets?
Yeah, definitely. It really seems like, despite not being a new term, everyone is now talking about UPFs. And again, this is due to consumers taking an increased interest in their health. And brands are successfully navigating this by simplifying ingredient lists, focusing on whole, recognizable foods, enhancing their transparency in sourcing and processing methods to really build that consumer confidence. And then they're also highlighting the intrinsic nutritional benefits and taste of their products, moving beyond just the plant based labeling. So if you look at a product made in the UK, such as Plenish, its enriched oat milk is a clean label option. It's got just
Mm.
three core ingredients. And then it's also fortified with vitamins like vitamin D and B and other nutrients like calcium and iodine. And it's made without oils or additives and offers fiber without any added sugars. So I think brands are really having to pivot away from what was sort of the first wave of plant-based options, which really did just try to focus on mimicking meat or dairy, with convenience and novelty driving that early adoption. And now the focus is really health-forward plant-based eating and minimally processed options, which are taking the lead.
Yeah, I think as you're implying, today's consumer is probably the most demanding that they've ever been. And one of the things that you report on is how taste and textures are now becoming kind of deal breakers in this space. What are some of the most exciting things that you're seeing, brands that are overcoming these sort of sensory barriers in sort of plant-based proteins?
Yeah, so we forecast simulating textures to rise across kind of all food and drink. But in plant-based, this is where hitting the spot is really going to make a difference. So new products, we're seeing things like the mind-blown plant-based seafood company who use konjac for a tender and sweet interior, and it's crispy, crunchy fried shrimp, and that really gives a contrast to really enhance appeal.
Nice.
But it's not just huge contrast either. Consumers want plant-based products to be juicy or tender or even just less mushy than they have been. So we see this with Former Foods, their carne asada, which is made using their proprietary chaotic 3D printing method, really ensures that the product resembles traditional meat in appearance, texture, and flavor.
Okay, well, let's talk value for a moment because many people are still questioning their choices because money is tight. There is a perception, isn't there, that plant based can be more expensive. How are manufacturers closing the gap between this affordability gap without sacrificing quality?
Yeah, price is definitely a barrier to many consumers adopting plant-based, and particularly because, as we've touched on already, consumers really want to be able to shop their values now. And again, this is something that we previously forecast. We called it the say eat gap. So this is consumers struggling to align their beliefs with their actual purchasing behaviors. So it's not just about being affordable. They also want the sustainability aspect. They want natural ingredients lists, they want convenience, and they want it to taste good. So brands that really work to align all these things will win. And so this is really key in plant-based. But there's some nice examples coming out now of affordability, such as Veef in Australia. It's got a range of carbon neutral products, which they have specifically priced equivalent to or lower than their animal-based counterparts. So they've got products like plant-based chorizo sausages or beef mince. And not only are they calling out the price point, but they're also highlighting the sustainability aspect with their carbon neutral claims. And then brands can also look at their ingredient sourcing and processing. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk on tariffs, and so many brands are looking to use more locally sourced ingredients to reduce reliance on imports. And I think this is only going to accelerate. And this in turn creates really nice messaging around supporting local economies and being more sustainable in your sourcing. So it's all beneficial.
You talked there about the say eat gap. And I think one of the ways manufacturers are tackling this is by creating next gen blends. This was a section that really intrigued me in your report. So, this is where plant and animal products come together. I mean, how should we think about these hybrids from both a health and storytelling perspective? Were there any clues out there in the market?
Yeah, I find these really interesting and loved researching this bit of the forecast. And I guess this is really giving you the best of both worlds. So, for example, there might be a plant based product that really hits the mark in terms of sustainability, texture, affordability, but it's just not quite there on the taste. And this is where the blending in of something animal based could just give it that lift to really tick all the boxes. Or in terms of health, we see brands such as Smug Dairy based in Ireland. They blend oat with dairy, so that offers a familiar taste, but then it delivers 40% less saturated fat than standard butter for its spreadable butter blended with oat. And then in terms of positioning, these products really can look to capture a new audience, distinguishing themselves from the traditional plant-based and conventional protein options. And this can really help with the affordability side of things that we touched on before. So brands could focus on using really high quality meat or seafood ingredients, but using very small amounts very efficiently and blending them with whole food plant ingredients. So you really get completely new products that have a much broader appeal to a different consumer base, as well as some of the existing plant-based consumers.
And your report also touches on ingredient diversity. So, the proteins themselves, everything from lupin to watermelon seeds, I read. Is it just about novelty?
I mean, consumers do love newness. We all love seeing something new on the shelves that ticks the boxes for us. But also, there is a much wider array of underutilized and novel plant based ingredients that are available to us that we could be leveraging. And again, they might have better sustainability credentials, they might be more affordable. So it's just trying to look at different ingredients and seeing how could you utilize those. So the watermelon seeds, for example, could be a waste product. So it's not going to cost you anything extra if you can harness those from someone else's manufacturing process to create a whole new product.
And when it comes to who is driving this shift to plant-based, is it all about Gen Z?
Yeah, so as we might expect, younger consumers, particularly millennials and Gen Z, are really driving significant innovation, especially in convenient options, ready to eat meals, snacking, and especially as we've seen this new way of eating rise, which is much more snack based. And brands have had to rapidly change their plant based offerings. But, data shows that 41% of EU consumers are increasing their plant based intake. And interestingly, older generations are also embracing flexitarianism, whether they're calling it that or not, which is contributing substantially to the plant based market growth. So, a large percentage of alternative meat purchases are coming from Gen X and boomers, which is indicating kind of a broader societal shift towards incorporating more plant based foods, even if they're not adopting a vegan, vegetarian, or even consciously a flexitarian diet. And I think also just looking ahead, you think about Gen Alpha, they're growing up being influenced by plant conscious, health conscious parents. So we can see how they could be poised to further accelerate this trend with their early exposure to plant based options.
I loved what you said about going beyond imitation in your report because I've often written about this myself, this obsession with trying to replicate meat. there must be more to plant-based than this. And you're talking about manufacturers that are trying to create something entirely new. What examples did you find of brands that are doing this particularly well?
Yeah, I think this is super important, and we're really seeing this come to life now. There's lots of consumers, myself included, that are looking for convenient plant-based options, but that don't replicate fish or meat, but offer just a tasty, quick, easy way to get a hit of veggies or plants that can be incorporated into a variety of different dishes. So, new in the UK is Oh So Wholesome's Veg Chop, which is that's what it is. It's chopped chunks of vegetable, I guess, and it's whole food ingredients with red lentil, sweet potato, quinoa, seeds. And you can throw that into anything, a salad, a bolognese, whatever you fancy, and you're getting your hit of plants. Similarly, I saw in Finland, Eat Golden Green, they have a product called deli oats, which can be served hot or cold, used in sandwiches or on top of pizzas, and that's just made with oats, peas, and fava bean. So it's these products that just, as I said, they're not trying to imitate. They're their class of their own.
Yeah. And I definitely need to check these out. Okay, Millie, finally, look, if you had to give one strategic shift that you think innovators in the food and drink industry must make in order to succeed in this sort of evolving plant-based arena, what would it be?
Yeah, I do think it's a real balancing act. And of course, it's hard because really now it's such a different proposition to what it was originally. So existing brands need to embrace a shift from being this sort of niche alternative to really something that is a mainstream option, appealing to a broad consumer base that's seeking health, sustainability, and convenience. It's really crucial now that brands look to tick these multiple boxes because consumers really are looking to make the best choices that they can for themselves. So I'm going to say my one shift is to look at all of those things and then really think about format, by which I mean, how can these products seamlessly integrate into existing consumer habits? So shifting towards real food formats, thinking about convenience, particularly within kind of fresh and pre-prepared. You know, every supermarket I go into in the UK, they've got a range of pre-seasoned chicken with barbecue or chili and lime flavors. And I really think there's an opportunity here for brands. I think we're starting to see it. But I think there's a big opportunity there. You know, there's brands like All the Aunties, which is a new brand in the UK. It's carbon neutral, handmade paneer with double
Hmm.
the amount of protein as tofu. It comes in flavors like cumin, chili, and turmeric, and garlic and herb, and it can be used in a range of dishes, and it's fresh and ready to go.
Great. Well, if that doesn't close the say eat gap, I don't know what will. Thank you, Millie. Brilliant as always. Now, once again, for listeners who want to contact WGSN, tell us the best ways that they can do that.
Yeah, so for more insights, just head to wgsn.com.
And that's as simple as that. Brilliant. Thank you, Millie.
Thanks, Andy.
We're back with Shania at the Together Agency, who spends her days watching TikTok videos and getting paid for it.
If only that was true. But for this podcast, I have been delving into content that highlights where the social zeitgeist is in the energy circuit.
So, what have you got for us this time?
Well, let's start with Bulletproof Coffee. Also known as butter coffee, this high-fat, low-carb beverage blends coffee with grass-fed butter and medium-chain triglyceride oil. It was popularized by Dave Asprey, founder of Bulletproof Nutrition, and is marketed as a means to enhance energy, mental clarity, and support weight management, particularly among followers of ketogenic and low-carb diets. There are hundreds of recipes for this by different TikTok creators.
Are you a coffee drinker but sick of those crashes that you get during the day? Come along with me to make my morning coffee. I drink Bulletproof every morning and it provides a sustainable energy throughout the day so I'm not getting any crashes, and it's delicious. I start with 1 cup of black coffee and then I add in 2 scoops of collagen, a half a tablespoon of MCT oil or brain octane, and 1 tablespoon of grass-fed butter. I know it sounds weird, but it's absolutely delicious and makes your coffee so dang creamy, and the fats are what is going to help have a slow release of that energy. Try it and let me know what you think.
Here's how I make my Bulletproof coffee. First, I brew a pot of organic coffee in a cafetiere. Add a raw egg yolk, a teaspoon of MCT oil, a teaspoon of ghee, maple syrup if you've got a sweet tooth, blend and enjoy. Such a good energy boost to start the day.
Several brands have emerged in the butter coffee segment since its inception. Besides Bulletproof Nutrition, we found Caveman Coffee here in the States that provides butter coffee products for health-conscious consumers, with White Gold, Blacklisted, and Mammoth Plus among the product titles on offer. And over there in Europe, you have Hunter and Gather Thrive grass-fed butter coffee, for example. Now, we like to talk about the rise of the more intentional consumer here on the pod. So could this functional elevation prove lucrative to the more mainstream brands in the coffee sector? It's important to note that while butter coffee has its proponents, some nutritionists advise caution due to its high saturated fat content and recommend considering individual health profiles before incorporating it into one's diet regularly. So, what's banging in the core energy drink sector, Shania?
An altogether different vibe, Caitlin. One brand that is on an upward social trajectory is Celsius. Already huge in the US and becoming one to watch over here in Europe, social media stars Jake Shane and Olivia Jade are often spotted drinking a can in their content, whilst instructing on beauty and wellness routines. Meanwhile, Numa, which Megan mentioned earlier, appears to be recruiting creators all over the TikTok estate to announce its clean energy credentials. Here's Ethan.
Ethan's energy evaluations. I need a shave, huh? Today we're doing Numa. This is marketed as a sport energy drink. I'm fired up about this one because this is by far the cleanest energy drink that I've taken a look at. There's like nothing on the ingredient list to have any problem with. It's 120 milligrams of caffeine, kind of on the low side. It's 2 grams of sugar and plant-based, non-GMO, paleo and vegan and keto and all that stuff. Give the health score like a 9 out of 10. Ugh, not very good. There's a lot of bad tasting shit in here. Probably give the taste like a 3. Okay, we got an energy drink with pretty much no crash. So this is definitely going to score overall really high. My only complaint, it definitely doesn't get you buzzing the same way. If you're looking for something really clean, gets you focused, gets you going, doesn't wreak havoc on you afterwards, this is the best one so far. This product is awesome. Everybody in the energy drink space says no jitters. This is one of the only ones I've tried that actually lives up to that claim, and I just feel focused and chill, like I can sit in one place. So far, other than the taste, definitely the best one I've tried.
Are we sure this guy is jitter free?
We'll have to put that down to post-production editing, Caitlin. So, we've mentioned the rise of electrolytes in the energy space, and arguably they have a long way to go to pierce the consciousness of mainstream consumers. But TikTok is determined to make this happen, as this creator makes clear.
If you're waking up having caffeine and you're still tired, I'm telling you what you're doing wrong right now because I used to do this too. Do not skip having your water with electrolytes before you have your caffeine. I swear it makes such a difference. I was this morning trudging along, feeling so tired. I drank a glass of water this morning before my coffee, but I didn't have my electrolytes, and I swear I just filled this janky ass water bottle with a pack of Element. This is not an ad. You can use whatever electrolytes you want. You could literally just use sea salt. And I swear to God, I'm like wide awake now, like ready to take on the day. It is such a game changer. I'm sure this is common sense to most people, but for those of you who just need that gentle reminder, do not forget your electrolytes in the morning and throughout the day as well, but stay hydrated.
I know Andy has adopted electrolytes into his morning routine, so there must be something to it. Now, as you ran your investigation, Shania, what was the dominant vibe here? If this was a contest between macho gym types and enlightened wellness gurus, where's the momentum?
Right now, I'd argue that momentum is with the wellness influencers. Host of the Wellness Cafe podcast Trinity Tondelier encourages slow living, suggesting hot girl walks, bed rotting days, and everything showers as a way to slow down, save energy, and protect your peace. And as this BBC journalist on TikTok highlights, the energy drink sector could be about to have its wings clipped.
If you drink energy drinks often, you're more likely to have unsafe sex and do badly at school. That's according to a new study, which is calling for a total ban of energy drink sales to young people and children. It found that energy drinks are linked to more health risks than previously found, like anxiety, stress, and suicidal thoughts. It also found that regular drinking was more likely to make young people violent and use drugs. Experts say the drinks can contain high amounts of caffeine, sometimes double the amount found in an average cup of coffee. At the moment, most UK supermarkets don't let under 16s buy energy drinks, so any proposed ban would include smaller shops, online retailers, and vending machines. Doctors said their research couldn't prove energy drinks directly cause the health harms, because dietary studies are always observational, but they said this was the best available evidence. England, Scotland, and Wales have already held consultations on banning energy drink sales to children. A spokesperson for the Department of Health and Social Care said, "We will set out our full response in due course." So, do you think they should be banned?
That's a story we'll definitely keep our eyes on, Shania, but we can already see how the sector is looking to diversify from its macho image. So thanks as always for keeping us in the loop. We'll see you next episode.
Thanks, Caitlin. Catch you next time.
Now, we couldn't have a truly buzzing energy episode without sharing some of the wide-ranging products that have taken charge in the category. I'm delighted to have MMR Senior Research Manager, food scientist, and product experience fanatic, Taylor Schadt, with us on the pod. Welcome, Taylor.
Hey, Caitlin. Thanks for having me on.
Great to have you here on Impact Makers. All right, let's get to the good stuff. You've brought 4 products for us today. It looks like we've got everything from beverages to gummies, even waffles.
That's right. As the category has grown, so has demand for not only new and interesting formats, but also formats that are best suited to precise occasions or even outfits.
It's really incredible how the space has expanded and evolved in the last decade. In addition to the format and benefit expansions, we've also seen products previously reserved for more extreme athletes like running gels or protein powders really establish themselves as mainstream.
That's right. For lots of consumers, the assumption is if an Olympian can use this product, it definitely would work for me. So while we have seen the development on the gentler side of energy, particularly when it comes to benefits like cognitive support, we've also seen push at the opposite end of the spectrum. The average Joe is now seeking access to the top nutritionally balanced and energy impacting products available.
And it doesn't seem like that innovation train is losing its own steam anytime soon. So let's talk about some of the products we have here. Semiotically, there are definitely some standouts. I mean, the energy space historically has been anchored in dark colors and intense fonts, basically the more extreme semiotic cues to tell you you're really going to get a jolt. Looking at the two beverages we have here, Numa and Pop and Bottle, we seem to be getting away from these cues with brighter fruit hues and pastel tones, respectively. Well, what can you tell us about these drinks?
Pop and Bottle's vanilla cold brew oat milk latte has some of the softest hues we've seen. Though it doesn't position itself specifically as an energy drink, this is a coffee with added functional benefits. The light pink tone of the can lends itself to the unique beauty benefits we see here. Made with fair trade organic coffee, pure oat milk, a hint of sweetness from dates, and 3,000 milligrams marine collagen for added glow to hair, skin, and nails. They're taking advantage of a sleeper energy drink in the routines of many, that daily coffee cup, and augmenting to generate a different type of appeal. Pop and Bottle's vanilla cold brew oat milk latte was very creamy and rich. You could really feel that MCT oil in the texture of it. That lended itself to more of that satiating feeling that they're trying to get at with a functional coffee. However, it was very bitter and chemical tasting towards the end of the experience with a strong, astringent, and acidic aftertaste, which I'm not quite sure it lends itself to its clean ingredient claims on pack.
How about Numa? This is definitely brighter and more aligned with what I'd think of a typical energy drink, but still differentiated by using more natural fruit hues versus the intense, sporty focus of beverages like Monster and Red Bull. So Numa is touted as innovative and made for label readers, thanks to the use of clean ingredients.
Yes, clean caffeine is the name of the game for Numa, promoting zero junk, smarter energy. As we saw with Pop and Bottle, Numa also reaches beyond the standard energy drink and promotes the use of powerful nootropics to help boost overall performance through better energy and focus. Now, it's hard to say what better energy might mean, maybe referring to the quick physical uplift and crash you may get from some competitors, but they definitely back up the clean caffeine through the liquid with a very juice-forward, natural taste experience. I tried the tangerine flavor and it did feel like I was cracking open a bottle of tangerine juice. The texture of the drink itself was not very carbonated and pretty light, though there was some viscosity from the coconut water, but overall it was not very sweet or cloying, therefore did feel very clean on the palate.
Well, now we need some snacks to go with our drinks. We've got a stroopwafel unlike the streets of Amsterdam have ever seen. Honey Stinger's Energy Waffle, which is promised to prepare athletes for intense activity and help them perform at their peak. Trusted by 2,000 plus pro and college teams. And a product from Cliff, who we had a lovely chat with on our product experience episode, Blocks. These are energy chews that come 4 to a pack, so think a gummy-like texture, promoted as a delicious source of quick carbohydrates and hydration support for fast fuel during marathon runs, games, cycling, and other high-intensity workouts. Now, these specifically say during on the pack. They're meant to keep you going mid-activity, and the sleek design really allows Blocks to be easily slipped into a running vest, which we hear is a necessity for a lot of our high-performance athletes.
Here's where we see the blending of both ends of the spectrum. New and exciting formats and flavors, while still delivering the energy support required for a high-performance athlete. Honey Stingers really surprised me. These were so good. They are balanced in sweetness, slightly salty to help balance out that caramel flavor, pretty light in texture and not too dense. I could totally see myself consuming one of these before or during a workout, which is a big stretch for something that tends to be a very sweet dessert. I'm not a high-performance athlete myself, but I can say Blocks stay closer into what's been available to that community longer term, and is just becoming more mainstream. Blocks, as Caitlin mentioned, are like square-shaped gummy energy chews. You could take about 1 to 2 bites to consume the whole thing. They're pretty dense in texture, so require a few chews to get through it. But I could totally see a high-performance athlete consuming one of these as they're, jogging down the streets of New York. Both of these products have been successful and are continuing to innovate. They got consumers locked into the format so naturally. They're expanding with flavors like peanut butter waffle and sour apple chews.
Well, I'm glad to hear that even our high performance athletes have an opportunity to grant themselves a sweet treat. Sounds like the energy category is stacking several new frontiers. So what do you think comes next?
With so much out there, I could totally see some more, products coming out that are along this dessert flavor line. I know we saw from our honey stinger here, there's some salted caramel flavors out. There's already some chocolate flavors out. So I could totally see this space shifting into some more indulgent dessert-inspired flavors.
Well, thank you so much for bringing us these products, Taylor. It's been great hearing more about what's out there. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty energized after this chat.
Have to agree. Thanks for having me on, and definitely watch this space.
So we do like to spoil you here on Impact Makers. And in this episode, we have not one, but two brand commentators on the future of the energy market. In a moment, I'll be talking to the founder of a brand new US player in the energy drink sector. And it's a drink that also helps users cut cravings, which does sound familiar. But right now, let's check in with developments in the sports and fitness arena. Now, it's fair to say that here, many fitness brands are still chasing gym enthusiasts with brand names that wouldn't look out of place on a heavy metal t-shirt. But my next guest is hoping to change all that. Her name is Wendy Rogers from AB Nutrition here in the UK. Now, Wendy, how do you spend your days?
So my days are very varied. I am the research and development manager for AB Sports Nutrition that handles a few different brands, a couple of UK-based ones, so that's High Five Nutrition and Reflex Nutrition, and a couple of abroad ones that are sort of third-party brands, but it's also useful and interesting to be designing for other countries because there's a variance, of course, abroad as well.
How do you think the world of sports science is evolving? What's driving the evolution?
I would say that the sort of increased accessibility of it. For a while, sports nutrition, sports science originally was sort of the purview of athletes and people who are sort of very, very intense about their training, have very fixed one-track goals. But in more recent years, there's been sort of an opening of that into just sort of your general day-to-day consumer, like the general public. And I think the forefront of that is probably the energy and hydration market, which we see as being the fastest growing right now. I think everyone's cottoned onto the fact, whether they're doing sports or not, they need their energy for the day and they want to stay hydrated. They've learned to associate that with feeling well, which it will help with that. I say there's also sort of a general increase in sort of education levels just through sort of general media consumption of wanting to be healthy, what being healthy means, what certain ingredients mean, how nutrition actually sort of works. And obviously, there's a lot of messy information out there as well. Not all of it is on the level, but in general, there's this sort of increase of awareness that is driving people to look at new products and new avenues. And so the brands that have a sort of accessible edge are starting to see a pick up to that. Whereas the sports energy market is looking to try and bring that energy in a more consistent and sustainable way.
Where is the sports science market picking up?
So I think the sports science market has a fair bit of overlap with the energy drink market, and you'll see similar ingredients in some of the products sometimes. But I know that the energy drink market can be quite intense. It's got its own demographic sort of fully formed in there and looking for quite heavy hitting results with an expectation of a crash. Whereas the sports and health end of the market is trying to sort of provide that energy without there being such a crash. It might not be such intense energy right off the bat, but it will have sort of greater longevity and sort of help build you up day by day as well. And another thing that I think the sports nutrition industry does well is tries to really direct people on when it would be appropriate to be using a high energy product. Some of our brands will actually have like a before or a during or after or something on it to try and sort of indicate when this would be useful to you. So one thing that I have noticed about the energy drink market in general is that people who are into it sometimes will sit and have like a very high energy drink while just sitting at their desk or doing nothing. And that's not really what they're for. I understand if someone sort of likes that feeling, but the sports nutrition market tries to direct that you wouldn't sort of sit and have an energy gel at your desk. These are things that are designed for sort of 20 minutes into your run. They're there for a specific purpose, and that helps people to sort of moderate their usage or understand what it's doing for their body.
So would you sort of segment it in terms of the occasionality? So you're talking about a pre, during, and post workout segmentation, if you like. Is that fair?
It can be pre, during, and post. It can also be an indication of what you might do on a non-training day. It can be like an indication of, like, there'll be more clear sort of dosages on it of how many you would expect to have per hour, for example, if you were running, or there'll be things to try and indicate that. And yeah, I'd say there's also the sort of the daily supplementation side of things. So the products that are intensely focused on energy or certain types of results and recovery will be directed for use sort of before, during, or after, but there'll also be that there's overlap with the general sort of wellness and supplementation side of things. So your daily vitamins or your daily creatine, or that's something that also keeps the energy sort of rolling day to day.
The fact that a lot of athletes now have wearables, biometric data being fed into diet. Do you see any opportunities there?
If you've got the kind of staff around you to be able to analyze that biometric data and feed it back in some kind of meaningful way, if you've got the kind of performance that where even the slightest like half second like reduction of your race time has significant meaning, then yes, in that area it will be helpful. Yeah, I don't think on the to the standard person who just enjoys sports and is doing it for their general health, I don't think this is going to make a massive dent in it. But it might make people sort of feel better. I think it would be emotionally driven for having that data rather than necessarily
Yeah,
results driven.
I understood. But today's consumer, they do want efficacy. They increasingly want, transparency, emotional empowerment. I think, everything's heading in that direction. So how is High Five rethinking its formulations, communications in light of such expectations?
Hmm. I mean, particularly on the communication side of things, there's a lot of emotion associated with athletic achievement and the process of getting there and so on. So I think a lot of our communication is trying to sort of tap into that and really be sort of a brand that goes hand in hand with a person's sort of sense of that achievement and emotion, like that really sort of helps bring the brand home, I suppose.
Yeah. More of an ally.
Yeah, it feels like a sort of cooperative kind of thing because there's nothing that we can give a person that makes them an athlete suddenly. Like they have to put the work in, and then we can give them the things that help them. But it's still a collaboration, really, and that's an important thing for people to remember. There's no magic pill.
Yeah.
There's no nothing that can do that for you.
Okay, now a lot of the talk right now in the energy market is about the shift towards electrolytes. So that's happening right now, brands like Liquid IV, of course. What would you say we should be expecting down the line in terms of the next evolution in performance nutrition? And this could be, about ingredients or formats. What do you think's coming next?
As you say, the electrolyte and hydration market and energy market is coming forward quickly. I expect we'll start to see sort of builds on those products. So I would expect to see next sort of the electrolyte offering, but maybe with a creatine alongside it or in it, or like a multivitamin that's got the electrolyte offering and stuff. So people starting to sort of team up the things that we would use on a daily basis into something that's more conveniently all taken at once is usually a next step on well-known products. There'll be, I think, a shift, as always, an interest in new formats just because different people like different things and it keeps interest there. So things like gummies, chews maybe as well. We've seen indication that sometimes the act of chewing something actually helps to release things faster. That includes caffeine and other things that have energy sort of associations. So we might see that kind of thing. On the ingredient side of things, see other ingredients like NMN and stuff come forward that are also targeting just cellular health across the board. We see probiotics or friendly bacteria pretty much everywhere right now, and all the fermentation foods starting to come forwards. Like that's all overlapping with sports nutrition, and you'll also start to see it overlapping with medicine. And there'll be, I reckon, a bit of a scramble as these things come forward as to where they get placed, whether they land in food, whether they land in nutraceutical, or whether they land in medicine. And anything with significant effect, medicine's going to try and keep hold of and hang on to, and probably rightly so, because things with significant effect might need more control or more oversight. And so as we go forwards, we'll see certain things maybe change category a bit depending on how much we understand about them. I think in general, I get regular inquiries from other areas of our umbrella company that are food manufacturers. I think there's an interest in starting to bring sports nutrition or concepts of higher nutrition into general foods, and that we'll start to see collaborations probably between food brands and sports nutrition brands starting to come forward to indicate that there is crossover there.
That's an interesting thought. Brands getting an advantage by collaborating with sports science to add efficacy to perhaps positively processed foods. Yeah, I like it. Wendy, now, if people want to check in with the High Five product range, where would they go?
So we're at highfive.co.uk. Yeah, we have an online shop. We have a large presence on Amazon, and we are available almost all over the world.
Brilliant. And is that High Five with a numerical 5?
Yes, high five with the numerical 5.co.uk.
Brilliant. We've loved talking to you, Wendy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
So our thanks to Wendy. Now, with the energy boom in full flow, new entrants are, of course, rocking up with products that are designed to keep this party going. Now, many are seeking to create a more inclusive category, perhaps with more natural ingredients or by adding new features and benefits for today's demanding consumers. Let's meet one of these new brands. The brand is called Slacker. Its founder is David Allred, and he's here with me now. David, welcome to Impact Makers, and tell us about Slacker. How did this come about?
Well, thank you, Andrew. Thank you for reaching out. I have a history of being in basically the better for you beverage industry. I have a company called Dry Farm Wines in America that is an online direct to consumer organic, natural, and sugar free wine club. So we import wines from France, Germany, Italy, Austria, South Africa, and bring it to the United States for people who are wanting to live a sugar-free, natural lifestyle. So if you're doing an organic program or keto diet or paleo diet or just otherwise want to keep, the ingredients that you put in your body to the minimum. And it's been a roaring success. We're in our 10th year. So knowing how food and sugar and things affect people and being pulled into eating things that maybe aren't the best for you all day long, I came up to a between meal snack beverage. So Slacka it's hydrating. And so it's got electrolytes, it's got energy with paraxanthine, which is a caffeine metabolite. But what it really has is some amino acids like 5-HTP and L-theanine and L-carnitine that instead of grabbing a bag of crisps, as you guys say, or chips or Doritos or pretzels at 3 o'clock between that meal or 11 a.m. between that meal, you would pop the top on a strawberry lemonade or a grapefruit or a watermelon margarita, 12-ounce carbonated Slacka beverage, and that will carry you through that snack. And also when you are getting ready to have dinner or meal, you're going to want to eat a little bit less because it has some of that GLP-1 agonist factors to it and that amino acid. So and it's just been super well received and people just can't wait to get a hold of it.
David, you mentioned paraxanthine. Tell us a little bit more about that ingredient because it's not currently commonplace in the beverage category. Is that right?
It's a up and coming caffeine metabolite. So there's energy drinks and coffee drinks that can label themselves caffeine free because it's not actual caffeine, but it's a metabolite of caffeine. And what it gives is what the industry calls clean energy and like a focused energy. And instead of a 6-hour half-life in your body, it's about a 3-hour half-life. So people who say, oh, I don't like caffeine, it makes me jittery, or I certainly can't drink caffeine after 4 o'clock because I'll be awake all night. The paraxanthine is a really breakout ingredient that is helping people get the little boost they need in the time zone they need it and the focus they need without the lingering effects. So we're very happy to include that as part of our ingredient mix.
Wow. Soon be in my morning cup then. So this is definitely an evolution on energy drink. You're saying it's doing the energy thing, it's doing the hydration thing, but it's also doing the satiety thing. So is the GLP-1 movement the reason you've come in now? Because what we do know, don't we, David, is that it's probably put the focus on appetite suppression for the masses, but equally those people who come off of GLP-1, we know that the evidence is that they put a lot of weight back on. Is this where you're hoping to intersect with consumers when they come off GLP-1 as well as the wider population?
Well, it's been a couple years in the making, and the GLP-1 conversation kind of started about the same time. We already knew that there was an issue with snacking, and nobody grabs a bag of crackers and chips in the middle of the afternoon and feels good about it. But you're hungry or hangry, as they say, and to give somebody an alternative to that, where they can feel good about the decision, taking back control, getting the food noise to quiet down. And the GLP-1 conversation was kind of happening right beside us. So honestly, whether you want to take those, but you're afraid of the side effects, or you don't want to inject, or the cost, or whatever, you're just not sure, this is a less extreme alternative. If you've been there and you hit your target weight, you're like, great, this worked perfectly for me. I got everything I wanted, but now I want to go into like a maintenance phase. Then this can be the help with an off ramp to keep you on that track. So we can be before, after, during, but yes, it's something to help get your body to regulate and know that it's doing the right thing, and honestly feel good about it. So that we're gonna give you a tool in the toolbox.
Now, I'm struggling right now to think of a competitor in the beverage space. Do you have competition? In which case, is that not a problem for you? Where do you go in store?
I think what we're aiming to do is to have a can. It's a ready to drink. We're giving people, whether you're walking into the break room at the office, or at your home pantry, or hopefully in a convenience store soon, or grocery stores. Right now, we're just online. We're about to get into grocery and retail. And I think we're going to kind of be in the more functional space, like a Poppy, Olipop, or a kombucha, maybe near a Celsius or a Ghost Water, although we're not all of that and none of that at the same time. So it's like we're a hybrid. So we want to be there and be that opportunity for decisions. There's not another beverage that does what we do in the time frame that it does it, and the immediacy of it does it, and the convenience that it does it. So
You're hitting at the right time, David. I was in Walmart in Dallas about 2 months ago. It's a category that clearly has momentum, and I am sure that retailers are going to be looking to maintain that momentum by ensuring that there is always something new for those consumers who are regular Poppy and Olipop buyers to come back for.
I mean, and they're doing something different. Obviously, they're not doing the same thing we are, but that's as far as where you would look for us on a shelf. I believe, and the retailer will decide for us because it's their store. But I believe that's kind of where we're going to be more in that section versus maybe the energy or just the water aisle.
Yeah. And I think we live in an age, don't we, where the consumer has higher expectations from brands now because they understand that the science is getting better, that AI is facilitating that science in terms of helping to improve human condition. So the expectation is that the brands coming on stream now are going to be more efficacious. And of course, you're going to have to live up to that in terms of the experience, aren't you?
I agree, and the feedback has been universally positive. That it's one lady even said it changes how I think about food. I mean, she said she came from the Clean Your Plate Club because there's starving children in the world, and she was like, it kind of changed the mentality of it. The word slacka is Swedish for quench. I wanted to find a name that was one word. And frankly, it was something we could get through the trademark and patent office in the U.S. And it sounds cool, looks cool, rhymes with snacka. Don't snacka, have a slacka. It's got the umlaut over the a. I like the name. I like the way it sounds on the tongue.
Yeah. The name creates a sense of attitude, doesn't it? And
It
that's
really
where
does.
we're at
That's what
now.
we're going for sure. For sure. A vibe, as the kids say, it's a vibe.
So where do you think this vibe will pop up mostly in people's lives? Do you see it on the dance floor, or do you see it on the Discord server, as perhaps Asahi would suggest? That's where a lot of people are spending their time now.
I mean, the gamer world and the online people are spending a lot of time online, like you and I sitting at our desk. Probably more there than the dance floor. I think the dance floor is where you're gonna get your Red Bulls and you're more just straight up as much 5-hour energy or one of those energy products to keep you going. Again, if you're on a Discord server, you're gaming, PlayStation or whatever the kids do. I'm not that world, but yeah, exactly. You're going to reach for, popcorn and chips and junk food, or could you grab something that's going to give you energy, the energy to keep going, and also keep you from adding 300 non-nutritive calories into your diet.
And David, I can see behind you, you have a book out. It's All the Same. What is that about?
It's a book in the personal development space. So I'm a big fan of the Tony Robbins, the Ram Dass, the Jim Rohn, the Earl Nightingales, Zig Ziglar. But you can also look at Buddha. You can look at being your best self, living your best life, doing the things for yourself. And what I was struggling with was which one's the best one, which program, which course, which meditative silent retreat is going to be the one. And I realized that they're all the same in the fact that it's all about you. And it's all the same, like, oh, it's all the same. It's all roads lead through you. Don't let the modality or the system hold you back. Find the one that resonates with you, and then realize you're the one that's going to make it happen. So the subtitle is Stop Looking for the Secret and Be Your Own Guru. So I basically go through a bunch of the different, programs and strategies and thought processes. One of my favorite examples is, Dorothy and then the Wizard of Oz. The lion always had courage. She always had the shoes on. It just took somebody to say, hey, you already had it. And we all have to release negative thought and self-doubt and trauma and all the things that legitimately have affected us. But once you get past that and address that, then you take charge. And an example I like to say is, if the house catches on fire and the smoke alarm goes off, yeah, it's going to ring the fire station, but you don't sit on the sofa in a burning house and just wait for the firemen to show up. You get the heck out of the house right away. Help's coming, and hopefully they mitigate the damage and, save some things. But you would never just sit in a burning house and wait for someone to show up and save you. The person who's going to save you is yourself. So I want to give people not necessarily a new tool, but realize there's tools already out there that can help them get there.
Yeah. But I guess what you're saying is that the power is from within,
Correct.
ultimately. Yeah.
That's like one of Tony Robbins' courses, Unleash the Power Within. And one of his strategies on that is the fire walk that walks across coals. And the thought is, I've never done it myself, but the thought is, well, I could never do that. That's crazy. And then, of course, people are able to do it. Their feet aren't on fire. It's like, and so that creates the question, well, what else do you think you can't do that you actually can do? So it's in that spirit that I just want to keep that conversation and help people realize, yes, it's within you. Figure out the way to unlock it, but you're gonna be the one to do it.
Yeah. Well, look, it's been fantastic speaking with you. We wish you luck with the trade. But right now, how can people get hold of Slacker? Where would they go?
They go to drinkslaka.com, drinkslaka.com. It's only available in the United States at the moment. And of course, we're on the social media, Drink Slaka on Instagram, on Facebook, and on TikTok. But yeah, drinkslaka.com, and we'll ship a case right to your door.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.
Such an interesting area to cover. We can speculate that as the daily pressures of life continue to be felt, consumers all over the world will be looking for physical and mental energy to get through it all. Today, the energy sector is serviced by primarily energy drinks, so that's fast, functional, often sugar or caffeine-based liquids. There's protein shakes and bars, so more of the fitness fuel for a longer term or sustained energy. And then there's nootropic drinks and supplements. Those kind of extend more into a mental or cognitive type of energy. And finally, we're now seeing more caffeine alternatives arising, like matcha, yerba mate, and mushroom blends.
And I guess, like everything else, we can assume that the product experiences in this sector will become more personalized, with more tailored daily energy blends, maybe based on biometric data. I think we're going to see the likes of energy drink pods before long. Microdose gummies and smart patches are starting to make an impression, of course. And maybe more integration into wearables, so whether it's Apple Health or Oura for responsive dosing. I also think we're going to see more mood-first energy products released. So this is a shift from just stimulation to sort of harmonization of our energy flows. Functional stacks combining adaptogens, nootropics, B vitamins, amino acids. And these may be positioned as clarity elixirs or flow tonics. Caitlin, what do you think of that? So more products that energize, but without that agitation, perhaps. And I'd like to see brands think more about the sensory experiences offered in this sector. So how can aroma, color, mouthfeel work better together to generate a more uplifting effect? So I think, energy needs to be a moment of elevation and not just a sort of quick fix. And finally, I think there's all of this emerging science around microbiome, increasing evidence that the gut-brain energy all links together via probiotic and postbiotic lens. And these are all tailored to boost vitality, reduce fatigue, optimize metabolisms.
So I guess what we're suggesting here is that the sector needs to shift from stimulant-based energy to more holistic, sustained, and harmonized energy.
Yeah, I think so.
Emotional and cognitive states will matter just as much as physical stamina going forward, and formats will become more invisible and integrated, even more experiential. So long as I can still get hold of my morning cup of coffee.
In some form, Caitlin. Been great to have your company again for this episode. Don't forget, listeners, you can check out our LinkedIn page, and there you can see how Walmart does the energy category.
And we'd love to hear what you've seen in the shifting energy space from Walmart and beyond. So comment directly on our LinkedIn page with your observations, insights, and any ideas for a new episode if you have them. Now, if you haven't subscribed yet, you can channel your energy into pressing that button, and we'll be on the airwaves again very soon. See you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.